Let's face it, we love the usual browns, reds and oranges from fall-themed colour palettes. They exude the classic autumn vibes, but if you're looking to make fall-themed cards a little bit unique this year, let's switch up the colour palette. We've compiled 5 fun and unique fall-themed card ideas with slightly different colour palettes to make your project stand out. Let's get started, and don't forget to tell us your favourite colour combination at the end of the video. Moody Autumn Cards by Jaycee. Feeling a bit moody this fall season? This stunning card by Jaycee is going to lift your spirits in no time. This unconventional yet breathtaking combination of greys, pinks and yellows are perfect for fall theme projects.
For my perfect pairing, the first 2 things I'm grabbing are eucalyptus wreath, the coordinating stencil, and its hot foil plate. I want to get my background going so I have a better idea of where I want to place flowers for this arrangement, but the background cardstock I'm working with first is Moon Rock. I'm just looking for a medium to dark gray background. And instead of foiling on gold, I thought this bronze copper would suit my scene a little bit more. To me, this copper color just feels a little bit more like a change of seasons and the transition into fall and winter. I'm running a little bit of the Altenew glue tape on the back side of my Moon Rock panel. And this is how I'm holding my foil to the cardstock. And we'll see how this arrangement looks when I run it through my hot foil machine. If you don't have the eucalyptus wreath hot foil set, what I also recommend is using this piece, this die right here from the Fresh Flowers die set, and this will be part of this perfect pairing. And to use the foliage element in this die set to cut brushed copper cardstock from Altenew, and that'll work just as beautifully in your perfect pairing if you decide to recreate this card. But for my example, I'm going to reveal this copper foil and eucalyptus wreath. And I love this end result. I did get some overfoiling, and what I find is useful to removing that is using the stamp conditioning eraser set. I have the old one and the new one. But either way, just gently rubbing the eraser over these overfoiled areas just really helps it come right off. And once I've got the majority of the big pieces off, I'll show you how to salvage some of these smaller areas with a technique that you all know I love. But I'm going to take this background just one step further and use the coordinating eucalyptus wreath simple coloring stencil to add a little bit of depth to the eucalyptus leaves in this background. I'm getting out my Altenew 9x12 sticky matte grid, and I'm using it to hold down my background panel. Then I can align my stencil to the openings of the foil outline. Since I'm using Moon Rock cardstock, I'll go down a step in darkness with Lava Rock, and this is all from the same color family. And I'm using a mini ink blending tool to add a little bit of depth between all of these leaves. And I'm using Lava Rock to create a variety of gradients within the eucalyptus arrangement. So that's part of the arrangement. And then there's another opening in the stencil, and I'll fill that in with Lava Rock as well. So that's the background panel to my card. Again, I'm using Moon Rock cardstock, Lava Rock ink, and the eucalyptus wreath hot foil plate with its coordinating stencil. I'm going to set my background panel aside and start working on my foreground elements. And I'm going to leave my 9x12 sticky matte grid since I'll be ink blending on some die cuts. So like I showed earlier, this is the Fresh Flowers die set. This was part of the May 2024 Secret Garden Retreat. And in my class of that retreat, I actually used pieces of this die set to create a card using techniques I've never really focused on the Altenew channel before. And of course, the Altenew retreats are always such a great time. So if you haven't had a chance to check one out, please do so. But anyway, in this card, I'm going to be focusing on just a few dies again in this set. I want just the rose looking elements included in the die set. So that's this larger keyhole opening and the more elongated triangle in here. And of course, I will also cut the centers to the flowers and then this set of leaves here. And I'll show you which cardstocks go with which dies. For the flower petal layers, I'm using Pastel Sunrise. And I'll use Pastel Sunrise to cut both of these groupings of dies. Then for the cluster of leaves and the flower centers, I'll use Sicilian Amber cardstock. I think the tone of Sicilian Amber sort of matches the copper feeling of the eucalyptus wreath. So if you're recreating this card in another palette, I would just suggest using a foil that coordinates with your cardstock or vice versa. On my pastel sunrise petals, I'm going to use Woodland Escape Fresh Dye inks with just a touch of dried petals. So I have mauve and toasted mauve to use on both of these flowers. On my keyhole images, I'll start with a base of mauve and another mini ink blending tool. And I'm creating long gradients of mauve starting from the center of the flower towards the tips of the petals. Then I'll create a shallower gradient of toasted mauve, concentrating this color in the center and working my way out, making sure that mauve is still peeking through the color that we just ink blended earlier. Then I'll add just a touch of redwood to the center of each of the images to create a lot of depth in the center of the flower. And I think this will create some really interesting contrast between our background and our focal flowers. Then on the elongated triangle cutouts, I'll start with Dusty Rose. And just like the first flower, I'm repeating the elongated gradients from the center of the flower to the tips of the petals. Then instead of toasted mauve, I'm going to go straight to redwood. And so that I can still create some really interesting contrast between Dusty Rose, redwood, and our background, and to distinguish it between this top flower and now our newly created bottom petals. I'll let my die cut petals dry off to the side before I start gluing anything down, and really I'm not ready to glue anything down yet because I've got to do the flower centers. For the large keyhole image and the elongated triangle, I need these two centers. I'm not ink blending on these two shapes because they're really made for the alignment piece. But then I will need all of my foliage elements cut from Sicilian Amber. And I want to create a mix of jewel tone gradients in all of the leaves just so that there's variation in the bouquet, just like how the leaves transition in autumn. So for my two leaf sets, I'll separate them just kind of at random, like that. On these top leaves, I'll use Olaf and Toasted Mauve. And on the bottom leaves, I'll use Mahogany Bark and Redwood. Starting with my lightest ink first on these top sets of leaves, this is Olaf, and I'm creating a gradient from the base of the leaf to the tip, just like that. Works up really easily. Then I'll add a shallow gradient of Toasted Mauve at the base of the leaf. Then on these bottom three leaves, I'll use Mahogany Bark to add a red gradient to Sicilian Amber cardstock. Then I'll deepen that with Redwood. I have a dwarf burning bush in my garden, and this palette right here reminds me of what they currently look like right now. Then on the flower center layers, I'm applying kind of whatever's left on the brush just to the edges of the die cut, just for a little bit of interest. Then after setting aside all of the foliage elements that I just ink blended, I can start assembling my petals now that I think that they're dry. So again, on top, this is the keyhole opening. On the bottom is the elongated triangle. I will also need the alignment keyhole, the elongated triangle opening, and these help align the ink blended centers that we made earlier. Then I'm just going to follow the layering guide found on the back of the die set packaging. And here are my two assembled flower images. By now I hope you can see that it's really easy to create some fall palettes that aren't so dark. It's really about using your color palettes wisely and knowing where and when to add a little pop of bright color so that your fall and winter bouquets still look really vibrant and lifelike. I'll set these two images aside. Before I start gluing down my foreground flowers to my background, I decided to pick my sentiment first. This is the Scripty Sentiments die set. This was also part of the May 2024 Secret Garden release. Almost jumped ahead to 2025. But anyway, I cut just the hello sentiment, the offset shadow, and the sentiment itself. So I cut the sentiment from Moonrock cardstock, the same color as the background panel. And then I cut the offset layer from brushed copper cardstock. This is from Altenew. I thought it was a close enough match to the foil that I have in my stash. I cut 3 layers of the Hello Sentiment from Moonrock cardstock, and I've already stacked them. So now all I have to do is glue it down to my offset layer. And off to the side, I'll let this dry under an acrylic block just to give it some weight. I've already glued down my foiled background to a folded note card base. I'll start with the placement of my flower elements and placing my flowers along this branch. I just think it makes the most sense for these images to lie along the shape of the wreath. Then I can nestle and frame my flowers with the ink blended foliage. And I'm making sure to mix and match my more green foliage with a little bit of the red mix. And I think this space right here is appropriate for my sentiment. But before I do that, in order to hide some of the small bits of overfoiling that I have on my panel, I'll use the metallic watercolor pan set and the copper metallic color, since it matches the brushed copper cardstock. And I'll use copper metallic watercolor to add splatter throughout the whole arrangement. Then after foam mounting the sentiment, that finishes this card featuring a few techniques for using your Altenew florals in more of your holiday themed cards.
Mixed Media Art Journal by Tania. Blue may not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think of fall theme card projects, but Tania executed this one beautifully. It's almost like the leaves are set up against the bright blue sky background. It's simple yet so pretty.
So I have cut my cardstock down to my usual 8 inches by 6 inches, and I am scraping some gesso onto it with a little mini tool. You don't have to use this tool, you can just use an old credit card to scrape some gesso on. I like using something like an old credit card or this little tool to scrape my gesso on, because then that way I can get a thin layer of the gesso on in order to prepare my surface to receive some inks onto it. And I've also made some marks and textures into the gesso for some additional texture. Now I am using a mist, one of the metallic mists from Altenew, and I have spritzed it onto my surface, and I have also diluted it with some water as well. And I'm moving my paper and swirling it into the ink so that I can pick it up. And in between each swipe, I am drying my art journal page with with a heat tool. And what you will notice is that my art journal page, I deliberately didn't cover the whole thing with gesso because I wanted the ink to be darker in some places and lighter in some places. So it helps to give it a little bit more visual interest. And here you can see I'm pointing out where you can see the gesso on the surface. You can see some of the marks that I made and some of the texture that I got in the gesso. And I love that gesso holds its shape ever so slightly, but it's not as raised as embossing paste, so it's something different to try as well. So I am die cutting some brown cardstock using the Happy die set and the Linear Alpha solid die set. And I have also used the leaf mix die set and cut out different shapes using several different colored cardstocks. So I have 3 different shades of yellows, oranges, and I've cut out 4 shapes, so I think I have 12 shapes in total. And before I apply stick my leaf shapes down, I am sticking down my alphabet, my letters down to spell out happy fall. So it's I don't know about you guys, but over here in the UK, the leaves are just starting to turn some beautiful fall autumn colors, the bright yellows, the blazing reds, the happy oranges, and I'm not really much of a winter fall person, but this year I seem to have a bit more of an appreciation for all the beautiful colors, and I was inspired by all the changing scenery outside. So I decided to incorporate that into an art journal page to commemorate how I was feeling at this time of the year. So what I'm doing is I am not sticking all of the leaves down. I'm only putting glue down in the central part of the leaves so that the edges of the leaves just lift a little bit. And as you can see, one of the leaf shapes is actually the inside bit of one of the leaf die cuts that I used. So I'm using as many of the pieces as possible to fill out my art journal page, and I'm creating like a little bit of a wreath like pattern, and I'm layering them so that the matching leaves aren't overlapping too much, and I'm getting a good level of variation on my little paper wreath. If you wanted to, you could cut these leaves out and lots of them while you're sitting down, maybe in front of a TV with your mini blossom and mini blossom die cutting machine, and just cut them out, and then you could pin them down or attach them onto a wreath blank, and you could have your wreath which you can use all year round depending on the colors that you use. So I've also die cut some brown shapes from the same leaf die set, and I have mixed it in, and I've stuck the whole thing down with some clear drying glue. And here is a closer look at my art journal page. It didn't take very long to put together, but I was very happy with how it turned out. I absolutely love these colors.
A Touch of Fall by Nathalie. Pinks, yellows and browns have never looked so good together. The talented Nathalie created this memory-keeping layout with the prettiest colours, not to mention the strip of red glitter cardstock on the side. It's unique, but perfect for adding a touch of sparkle.
The idea or the inspiration comes from Deepa Robbins. She created this beautiful card, and I thought that the colors and the feel were just perfect for the cover of my gratitude journal for the month of October. So I am going to start by stamping the images from the Craft Your Life project kit, Sunshine Flowers. There's 2 big flowers that come in this set, and I'm going to stamp them using my stamp wheel and obsidian ink onto white cardstock. Once I have stamped them, I'm actually going to use a little bit of the inspiration from Deepa for the colors for my layout. So I'm going to start actually with the stencils that come in this set, and I'm going to start with Sunray. I'm using the new fresh dye inks, and I love the colors that just is beautiful. So the way I'm going to add the ink is I'm actually going to put emphasis, or I'm going to add extra color to the tips of the petals, and also the part that is, I'm going to call it this, not the center, but the edge, like the 2 edges, the one that is closer to the petals and the one that's right at the outside edge of each of the petals. I want the center to be kind of on the white side. So you're going to see that I'm going to take my time. I'm going to show you little snippets of how I went about it, but I'm making sure that the tips of the flower are the yellowest, and towards the center also a little bit on the yellow. I want kind of a nice mixture of yellow, white, and the next color. I just want it to be really light. When I looked at Deepa, she had like this combination of yellow with purple, and I want to use something similar, but I want to give it, like I said, a little bit more of a fall feel. So for that, when it came to the second step on the stencils, the first one actually creates or colors your flower. The second one is the one that's going to add details. I am actually using Frosty Pink for this. It's just going to give me a little bit of that orangey, like that rusty color that fall, we're so familiar with fall. And once again, I'm going to go really with a lot of pressure towards the tips of the petals. And I'm going to leave quite a bit of empty space, or like kind of leave it on the whitish side in the center of each petal. And I'm going to repeat that for all my 2 flowers. Now for my leaves, I'm not going to go green. I'm actually going to go towards the brownish greenish. So I'm going to start with pink sand. And again, I'm going to go hard or apply quite a bit of the color towards the tip of the leaves. And then I'm going to come with paper bag. I'm not moving the stencil. I'm keeping the first step. The first step of the stencil is the one that is going to color the leaf. So I'm going to apply it kind of in the color in 2 sections. Pink sand towards the tips of the petal, and paper bag towards the leaf. And paper bag towards the part of the leaf that's closer to the flower. Now for the second part, the one that adds the detail, I'm actually going to use olive, because it's going to bring kind of that muted fallish tone to my leaves. Now, I really love the color combination in Deepa's card. So I'm going to bring a little bit similar for my center of my flower. So you're going to see that I'm using 2 colors. I'm using Alpine Aster and Crystal Violet to bring a little bit of that kind of purplish, bluish tone that Deepa used for her card. I don't want to make it completely like brown, because then it'd be like a little bit too dark. So I thought that the pop of blue was going to be perfect, kind of like I'm going to call periwinkle in this layer will be perfect. And I'm going to add a little bit of paper bag at the end of my ink blending on the center of the flower, just to mute it a little bit. Once I have my ink ready, I'm going to use the die to cut them and have the flowers ready. I already know that I'm going to kind of follow the idea that Deepa has and kind of cluster them towards the left of my page. I love the glitter that she's adding. You're going to see that I'm playing with my flowers. I know how they're going to sit. And what I want to do is, because you got to understand that I'm creating a 6x8 layout for my journal, kind of the area that I have to fill with this flower is a little bit larger, and I want to add a little bit of extra texture. For this, I'm going to use the embossing folder from the Craft Your Life project kit, Sunshine Flowers, and I'm going to emboss that big, I think it's like a big daisy right on the center of my page. Once it comes down, I'm going to apply a little bit of pink sand. All I'm doing is just rubbing my ink pad kind of lightly on the embossed area. So the stuff that is like kind of sticking out or just embossed, it's just going to grab a little bit of that ink. You're going to see that I'm actually going to smudge a little bit onto the background, and I'm okay with that, because the flowers are so large that are going to cover quite a bit of that. I'm just adding that extra bit of texture and color because I have a larger area compared to an A2 card. So that's the big difference here. Now, like I said before, I do love the glitter edge that Deepa added on her card, so I'm gonna follow the same idea. Now here's where it's gonna make it a little bit different compared to other layouts that I've created. Usually I create the binding within the page. This time I wanted my title page to kind of float on my album. For that, I'm gonna use the sticky strip. It's available in the place where I buy my albums, and I thought that was a great way to hold the page together and also hide it with the glitter paper. The glitter paper that I'm using is actually Brown Diamond from the Brilliant Red Glitter Cardstock set. And I'm going to cut 1.5-inch strips. I thought it was thick enough. And you're going to see that I'm going to glue them back to back with the ultra sticky tape. Once I have once I have them in place, I'm going to cut the excess, and that little piece that is left over, I'm actually going to cut 1/4 inch strips, and I'm going to create that little thin line that Deepa has on her card. I really fell in love with her card. So I'm going to glue it around 1/4 inch from the thick strip, and then I'm going to set my flowers. Like I said, I'm going to just put them towards the left of the page, kind of cluster in one area so that they create like this large cluster with my embossed folder. Now, I added a little bit of foam adhesive towards the tips of the flowers that go towards the right of the page, and I'm going to glue whatever's sitting right on top of the glitter. I'm going to cut the excess. I want that clean, nice edge. And then the leftover pieces, I'm actually going to use them. There's a few leaves that came out. I'm going to use them to bulk up my cluster. I don't want to waste, first of all, and I think you just need a little bit more of the brown tone to bring more of the fall feel. Now, here's the big difference. Deepa used a sentiment to actually make the focal point of her layout, I'm actually going to stamp my sentiment, or in this case, my title. I am using the Greatest Blessings stamp set, and you're going to see that I'm using 2 of the sentiments. The one that says grateful for the small things, big, and everything in between. I'm going to use that as my my subtitle. So I'm using paperback to stamp that. And I'm going to use the sentiment that says thankful, grateful, and blessed. That's going to be kind of my title. I'm going to use obsidian black ink for that. Outside of the camera, I actually stamped October 2023. So by the time you see this, I've already added like 5 entries onto my gratitude journal. So I'm going to add just a few glitter drops just because I love the fact that you need that pop of shine to match the page and also to kind of continue the inspiration from Deepa's card. But that's about it. I love how this turned out. Like I said, I fell in love with Deepa's card. I thought it was beautiful. It just gave me that feel of fall. And I wanted to translate that into my layout with a few twists just because I need to enlarge it. And I hope this inspires you to create something that, starts your fall crafting in a way.
Quick die cutting backgrounds by Therese. When people think of fall theme colours, warm and earthy tones usually come to mind first, but bright colours like pink go very well with white and orange, as seen in this gorgeous card by Therese. Plus points for the resourceful 2-in-1 card idea. This is just so lovely.
This is like a cover die, but it doesn't actually cut around the edges. But one of the best things about this style of die is that when you run it through a die cutting machine in one pass, you have a ton of images ready to go. But for the first technique, we're going to do something just a little bit different. We're going to emboss the die cutting image onto a piece of cardstock. I've got some 80-pound Nina here. You can use whatever cardstock you have, and I'm adhering it to the die because it's cut exactly to size and I don't want it to shift. But if you used a larger piece, that would be easier. And here's the secret sauce. It's a silicone mat. Now, many die cutting machines come with one of these silicone mats. So if you haven't used one before, what it does is it prevents the die cutting edge, cutting the paper, and instead just leaving an impression on the actual cardstock itself. Now, for the sandwich that you need to use in your machine, I would just refer to the guide that you have. And if your machine didn't come with a silicone mat, then you can actually purchase these separately. In the olden days, they were called tan mats because they were tan in color. But look at how amazing that impression is. And there's our first background done, except that this is a layering background and there are numbers impressed in some of the images on this piece of cardstock, and I don't really want them to show. So what I'm doing here is I've flipped the cardstock over and I'm leaning it on this silicone mat, and I'm using my Teflon bone folder. You can use a stylus or any sort of blunt pen, or like something that's got like a blunt end on it, to rub the back of the cardstock and kind of press out the portion, or the numbers in this case, that you don't want to see. They're not going to be really visible at the other end. No one's probably going to notice them, but it's just something that you can do. We're on to our second technique now, and this one we're going to create a pattern. So because this die cuts out multiple images in one pass, you've got a lot of elements to create a really quick and easy background in one pass of the die cutting machine. Although I did decide to go with 3 different colors today. I thought that'd be a lot of fun. And by choosing 3 different colors, it means that I can mix the colors up more easily on the background and make sure that the same colors aren't touching each other too much. It can help with the balance of the design itself. And what I like to do is sort of spread everything out and work on a panel of cardstock. It's cut to A2 size, so I'm not actually working on the card front here, but if that's your preference, that would work too. I typically work on a panel of cardstock. That way, if anything does go wrong, I can just chuck it away without feeling too guilty. So when I'm laying out the pieces, I usually start with the larger of the images, and I try and balance the colors around the card. By adding the larger images first, then I can use the smaller images to fill the gap. And the great thing about things like leaves is that you can cut them down to sort of fit into the design if you need to. So don't feel like you have to use the exact die cut that you've run through the machine. Have a look at it, and if you've got a gap there that's not making you happy, then you can always cut things back and then adhere something in a gap. I also like to use liquid glue a lot of the time. It just is fast drying, it's easy, and I can maneuver it just a little bit when it's on the card, but it's not particularly forgiving, and I'll show you another option shortly. And I also make sure that I hang some of the leaves over the edge of the cardstock, because that way it looks like the pattern is continuous. And it's really easy to clean up those edges just by flipping the cardstock over and cutting them away with I usually use a long straight pair of scissors. Straight, like scissors are crooked. I usually use a longer pair of scissors for this. And then I can grab any of the little extra leftover bits and kind of fill in the gaps a little bit if I feel I need to. But you don't have to use multiple colors. You can use just a single color of die cut. You can also die cut this in white and then add the white onto the white background and get an embossed look. You can also do a tone on tone, like add a colored background if you want. Or if you want to get fancy and you've got more time and you want the card to come together a little bit quicker, you can inlay die cut the images instead. But that would be a labor of love. But it will give you a similar look and it'd be a lot of fun to do. I didn't want to lose the background too much, so I added a central bold sentiment, and this whole card is die cutting, no stamping or colouring at all. Very quick and easy to do. And I decided to add a wax seal to the second card because they're both fairly clean and simple designs, and I thought that would just add something special. I've got the mint chalk here, which is a really pretty green colour. And I'm working on the silicone matte, which is a lifesaver when it comes to anything with heat and wax. The cleanup is so easy. And it also protects your work surfaces. Now I've got the mini bow wax seal stamp. It's a really cute little bow that creates the seal, and I thought the size of this is perfect for card designs. And I decided to melt more wax than I need because I might as well make a few while I'm at it, and that way they're in my stash, ready to go, and I'm not getting a naked flame out near paper more often than I need to. So why we decided to add something with naked flame when we're paper crafters? But you know what? It's all about the look. So I decided to make a couple of different sizes with this small wax seal. I did a couple of larger ones, which leaves a circular border around the seal stamp, but I thought I'd try it with just a very small amount as well and just make a tiny seal with it, which worked really well. The other thing I've found is if I've got any leftover wax in the little cradle or the spoon, then I can just tip it onto the mat and then put it back into the jar. Or if I'm not happy with any of the seals that I've made, I can do exactly the same thing. I can cut them up and then remelt them for another wax stamp. So it's all very new to me. I'm still learning the wax seal, so you guys are probably all over this. And my biggest problem was how to adhere it to my card. But first I want to show you that I'm using a dotted adhesive here to add these really intricate die cut leaves and berries to the card, and it works really well. The best thing about this though, which I find over and above the liquid, is that it's repositionable, but once it sets hard. With the wax seal, I kind of looked into it, and from what I can see, foam tape is going to hold it. And so far that's working really well. I did try that on another card design with not as much luck. And then I thought maybe I could try the hot glue gun, but then does that melt the wax again? I want to know in the comments below if you can share with us your most favorite way to adhere a wax seal to a card design, other than add the wax directly to the card front, which would work beautifully too. I'm just not that confident. So let's talk about the two techniques that we've done today. The first one was creating an embossed design using a cutting die, and this cover die is perfect for that. And on the second design, we've got a ton of images with just a couple of quick passes through the machine and made a really quick and easy background. I did mine multicolored, but you can do yours however you like.
Sweet Chocolate Flowers by Bibi. Autumn is the perfect time to sit back and relax with your favourite treats. So why not go for candy-themed colour palettes like Bibi did with this cozy card? The chocolate background looks delectable, and the bright orange and yellow flowers almost look good enough to eat.
So to create the projects today, I'm going to be using the Chocolate Flowers embossing folder and the Zero Waste Chocolate Flowers die set. This kit also includes coordinating coloring stencils, those ones here, and also background stamps and sentiments that will allow you to create different backgrounds for your projects. But for today, I wanted to focus on the embossing folder. So I'm going to be using Velvet Cardstock by Altenew. This color is gorgeous and it's 216 grams, so that makes it perfect for die cutting flowers or toppers for your cards, but I'm going to use it today for a background as well. So I'm going to cut a piece that measures 6 inches by 6 inches, and then I spray a little bit of water over the embossing folder because that's what I do always, and I was in autopilot. But because we are using 216 grams cardstock here, we don't really need to apply water. You need water when your cardstock is 300 grams or super thick, so you need that extra help. And because I apply water, I need to allow this to dry. So while this dries, I'm going to die cut a couple of panels using the Zero Waste Chocolate Flowers die. I really love this concept because it's zero waste. We are not wasting paper. We get a bunch of die cuts out of this panel, and we can use the panel as well if we want to. I'm not going to use it today, but I just wanted to show you how this looks. Okay, the next I'm going to do is to apply inks to the die cuts and also to the embossed panel to add color. You can find the names of the ink colors I'm using in the subtitles and also in the supply list that is linked in the video description. There is not a rule to add color to die cuts. You can start by applying inks from the edges of the piece to the center or from the center to the edges. And something I always advise when doing this is not to cover the whole piece with the ink, just leave some white edges or centers. Another thing I like to do is to blend different ink colors, not only to create different shades of color, but also to add interest and eye-catching effects to the die cuts. So for example, there you can still see the yellow ink I applied, but I'm applying a red ink over, creating an orange color. And this is just a thing that you can do using any ink color you might like. You can also choose to completely cover die cuts using the ink and also adding some darker spots at the edges of the die cut. But I'm not using the inks randomly. I'm using the same ink colors to add colors to all the die cuts, but I'm always applying the colors in different ways. So for example, for the biggest flowers, I'm mixing in all the colors I'm using, but I'm trying to achieve the color degradation from the edge of the die cut to the center. For other flowers, I just choose 1 or 2 ink colors of my palette or my 4-color palette, and that's the way I guarantee that I have color coordination. You can do this, however, in many different colors, or you can create a multicolor composition. It doesn't really matter, and the way you apply the ink over the die cuts is also a little bit irrelevant, and the results are going to be nice even if you apply the most patchy color blend. So I'm showing you this process, and I know that you know how to do this, but I still want to show you more or less how I do the things. So for the leaves, I use the same base color I used for the flowers, that was yellow, and then I incorporate blue ink to create a green shade that coordinates with the flowers. That doesn't stop me from using green inks and even a very dark ink just over the center of those leaves or branches to add contrast, shadows, and interest. The color choice and the way you add color to die cuts or your projects is completely personal and is optional and is never wrong. I was playing with these supplies yesterday and I created a completely different color palette. I also was using the stencils to add color to the flowers. It looks amazing, but for today I decided to do something different. But no worries, if you are interested, I'm going to show you what I did yesterday at the end of the video. For this embossed panel, I wanted to add darken edges or to darken the cardstock color because it's very vibrant and velvety and red. So I grabbed espresso ink and a large brush and I start applying this ink around the edges of that piece. I decided to stop inking this up and trim the edges of this piece to be able to add more ink close to those edges. So I'm going to use pure graphite ink here. This is a very dark gray ink that will allow me to add a little bit of shine and also that color that resembles or look like a chocolate bar. This is a dark chocolate bar. So regardless if you use, for example, brown cardstock or similar cardstock colors, I will advise to use these very dark ink colors at the edges just to add luminosity to that background or to that project. And you can also blend a little bit of that ink on the center, but just a little bit. So this is done, and now I'm going to assemble the flowers. And here you will have many options because you have many pieces created by the die and you can layer them up in different ways to create different flower designs. I'm going to do something very basic here, just adding 2 flower petals in the center of the flowers to create these large flowers. And for the small flowers, I'm going to keep them simple and I'm going to add just 2 small die cuts in the center of the flowers, just like that. And for these other flowers here, I decided to add a black center. So that's what I'm doing there. And this is pretty much done. And the next I have to do is to layer the pieces on my panel. This is a 6x6 panel, so I'm going to create a wreath, but you can create endless compositions here. This is just to get your creative juices flowing and to have an idea of the pieces and different components of the Chocolate Flowers project kit. And the only tip I have to share when you are doing wreaths of this kind of projects is to mirror your images. So you add a leaf in this spot here, then you add another one in the spot right in front of it. The same with every single element in your wreath. So there you go. These are the perfect colors for autumn, Halloween, Thanksgiving. You can also add a die cut figure or an image in the center of this wreath to customize it for any occasion. But I'm going to keep it simple today and I'm going to add some sparkle. So I added gems. I'm going to splatter some gold paint and I'm also going to add gold ink over the raised areas of the embossing folder. But I'm being here super gentle and not pressing down the ink pad at all. Okay, to finish this card, I'm going to add a sentiment from Tranquil Greetings stamp and die set. So this card is finished, but I don't want to go without showing you options. So this is what I did yesterday, and I just embossed a panel and I decided to cut it in half. I trimmed the edges to create 2 mini slim line panels. This panel measures 3 inches by 6 inches. I then applied espresso ink all around the edges of these panels and a little bit of the ink in the center, but not so strong as at the edges. Then I grabbed Enchanted Gold Metallic Ink by Altenew and I slide these across the panel like I'm showing there, being very light handled. And as easy as that, I made my first paper chocolate bars. To die cut the flowers, I use press and seal at the back of the cardstock. This is a very old idea and it's good when you want to keep all the die cuts in place, but sometimes it could be tricky to remove the press and seal from the back of the die cuts. I still did it this way because I really wanted to be able to use the stencils and give it a try. So I used the coordinating stencils to add colors, as you see there. It was super easy to line up. The stencils are super clever because they also have embossed image or lines that will allow you to guide yourself and to know where exactly place the stencil every time. So this not only allows you to add colors to die cuts, you can also add that stenciled image on paper, cardstock, canvas, any other material to create a pattern or a background for any kind of project. Here I have to warn you because if you use press and seal at the back of your cardstock, it's going to be a little bit challenging to remove it. It's not like super challenging that you cannot do it, but it will take extra time and I'm impatient for these kind of things. I'm not sure if you are. So you can skip the press and seal as well. Stencil your panel, die cut another piece and use the negative space to line up the stenciled image with the die. You might need to place that piece on top of the stenciled image, then the die on top and run that through the die cutting machine to do the cut. There are different ways to do it. I think the easiest is just to die cut all the flowers and add color or inks apart. The stencils are great to create coordinating paper or elements for your projects. Once we have all those elements, putting cards together is super easy. In this case, we have this chocolate background, but it could be a stamped background or any kind of background you want. These flowers are gorgeous and you will be able to easily create with this kind of die cuts. And if you want to get more playful, you can also shape the flowers using this kind of tweezers. And all you have to do is to place the tweezer in the middle of the flower petal or the leaf and pinch upwards to get that shape done. So this is an extra sample I wanted to share with you as well. You can decorate boxes, memory albums, tags, or any other papercraft project using these supplies. And I got stuck in the concept of creating dark chocolate bar card ideas, but the sky's the limit when you use different colors and different textures. And I just wanted to provide you here with a visual of the same project in different sizes. And that's all for today.
And there you have it. Which colour combination are you going to give a try? Let us know in the comments below. Loved watching this video. There is more where that came from here on the Altenew official YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell button so you don't miss out on any of the crafty fun. See you soon and happy crafting.